of a session like today?
It was so slow. We saw the market pretty flat, $3.5 billion traded. But having looked at the Australian market in comparison to the rest of the region, and we did outperform, the Australian and the New Zealand markets did manage to finish in the black, while we did see losses elsewhere around the region. One of the reasons why we could have seen such a slow day on the market is the fact that we did see Hong Kong closed for a holiday. So $3.5 billion being traded, that makes it a worse day than Monday yesterday, where we saw about $3.8 billion going through the market, and really no clear trends on the market. We did see the property and the telecom sectors outperforming, and we also saw the materials and the banking space higher. But on the flip side, healthcare was lower, utilities was lower, energy was lower, as was the industrial and the consumer staples area. As Michael mentioned, tomorrow the flash PMI numbers are going to be very important. And it's going to be important because this is the first read that we get into the manufacturing space in China for October. Now, there is a belief out there in the investment community that growth in China had bottomed out in the third quarter, and this is the first sign that we'll really get to see whether that's true or not. So if we do see an improvement in these flash PMI numbers, it really is going to support the case that perhaps we have seen growth bottoming out at 7.4% for the Chinese economy in the third quarter, and that things are on the improve from here. In terms of individual stocks, there were some impressive movements today as well. We saw 52-week highs for the likes of Flight Centre as well as Credit Corp. In fact, that travel space just seems to be on fire at the moment. We saw What If up by a massive 16.4%, and that's after its AGM yesterday, where it said its first quarter results are in line with last year. So not sure what's put a rocket behind What If shares, but up by a massive 16.4% today. And we also saw Discovery Metals up by around about 5%. We saw a formal bid coming through from the Chinese. So a little bit of news in terms of the Australian share market, but certainly the volume not reflecting that.
Bond argument, one that, has raged for as long as I can remember.
James, this one's been going on for around about 3 years. And 3 years ago, there were people saying that the fixed interest market does look like it's in a bubble. And I guess if we do have a look at the relationship between fixed interest and equities, it's really been that fixed interest space which has outperformed the last 3 years. As interest rates do fall here in Australia, the equities market starts to look a lot more exciting. So we are starting to see a bit of a greater shift into some of those high yielding areas. But really it's when the growth areas of the market start to outperform that that the cycle probably has turned, and it's good news for the market. So falling interest rates do tend to be a positive for the market, but at the moment we are still seeing a lot of that demand falling into defensive high yielding areas, and it's when it shifts to that growth area that you can see that perhaps the cycle has turned. A lot of this is tied to China, which is why tomorrow's numbers are going to be important. Not only the flash PMI numbers coming out from HSBC for the month of October, but also the CPI numbers. The CPI numbers, we're expecting them to be quite tame, but they will be built, I guess a close eye will be kept on them to make sure that it doesn't impact on the expectations that we will see another rate cut here in Australia in the month of November. But I guess in terms of the corporate calendar as well, there's two things that are really quite important and can dictate price direction for quite a bit of time, and it's usually the beginning or the end of a trend, and that's earnings season, and the other one is AGM season. We're right in the midst of AGM season and some massive moves going on. We saw SMS Management coming out today with its AGM, the stock down by a massive 23.4%, and we've seen commentary coming out from other companies listed on the Australian share market and some massive moves. Worley Parsons was down by 5.7%. We also saw Pacific Brands down by 3.6%, Boom Logistics up by 5.8%. So while it was a slow day on the Australian share market in terms of volume, there was no shortage of news and big moves around the marketplace today.